Everything would have been different.
Painful.
So many people look at that moment and blame Kevin McCarthy for allowing this national nightmare to continue. The truth is finally coming out because Kevin was too weak. Kevin McCarthy, too weak to stand up to Donald Trump, too cowardly to stand up for Donald Trump. It's so cowardly that even after saying that this was horrific and that Donald Trump was responsible, he backed down even after that. And I will tell you, it's so interesting, Willie. Liz Cheney, I think we read that on January the 6th, I think it may have been Jim Jordan who offered her a hand to help. And she said, in effect, get away from me.
Yep.
You're responsible for this.
Yeah, I mean, cowardice is the word today. I mean, when you listen to that description from Cassidy Hutchinson about Mark Meadows' actions on the day of January 6th, it's more than cowardly, though. It's unpatriotic. You know what's happening at the Capitol, and you're not willing to stop it. Our country is under attack, and you say, well, what am I supposed to do? He thinks Mike Pence should be hanged. What am I supposed to do? Staring into his phone, closing the door on Cassidy Hutchinson when she's trying to brief him about how bad things have gotten. He's a coward, and he needs to come and sit before that committee and testify at this point. And Paul Butler, I'll turn to you about who else we might hear from. Pat Cipollone, the White House counsel at the time, was at the center of this. He comes off pretty well, according to Cassidy Hutchinson, about how he acted and stressed upon the White House officials, the president, the chief of staff, Mark Meadows, how bad things were and how much trouble they might be in. This morning, Liz Cheney's tweeting, saying, as we heard yesterday, White House counsel Pat Cipollone had significant concerns about Trump's January 6 activities. It is time, she writes, for Mr. Cipollone to testify on the record. Any concerns he has about the institutional interests of his prior office are outweighed by the need for his testimony. So who do you think, Paul, may now, because of Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, be compelled to step forward here?
Pat Cipollone, it's past time for him to testify. He's the one who said that if this goes down, we're all liable for these federal crimes. We need to know what federal crimes he was talking about and who he thought was liable. He has no privilege not to testify. He was the White House counsel. That means he represents the people of the United States, the institution of the White House. He does not represent Donald Trump, and he needs to stop protecting him.
And he's tried to exert executive privilege here, but my God, based on what we heard yesterday, he has to fill in some of these blanks. Donnie, you watched all day yesterday. Just your broad reaction to what you saw from Cassidy Hutchinson. There were some concerns that this was being overhyped, that they were rushing Congress back. Who could this be? What could she really tell us? Well, now we know why they rushed back.
It's the best of times and the worst of times. You know, we're just, Joe, you started at the top of the six, referencing Friday and Roe v. Wade and how history over the last 3 days is being made in stunning fashion. And there's so many people who keep coming up to me and going, what's wrong with us? And how worse can it get? And how bad can it get? And we've lost our way. And you see Roe v. Wade, and you see Trump and the violence and everything that's been documented. But then you see a Cassidy Hutchinson, and you see a system that's going to be holding these people accountable. And you can start to connect the dots, and you see how Merrick Garland will have no choice but to bring criminal charges against Donald Trump. And you see that this is the beginning of the end of Donald Trump. Not Trumpism, but Donald Trump, both politically and probably criminally also. And you go, you know what? As bad as things are, and as bad as we can be where Roe v. Wade is overturned, whereas you can have a potentially bloody coup in this country, we do have a system that holds or appears to be holding. So as I said, the best of times, the worst of times, we do have heroes in this country, and Cassidy Hutchinson is clearly one of them.
Annalise, it's so important, I think, that we separate some things out here. And I do understand, and we talked about it at great length, the real concerns many people have about the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade after 49 years, what it may mean to women in states, what it will mean to women in states who are rape, incest victims, women who are going to have a centralized state having control over their body. But it's very important that we separate that for our viewers. That happened within constitutional boundaries. That happened because Republicans elected more United States senators to the Senate. That happened because Americans may not like, most Americans may not like the way Mitch McConnell wielded his power, may not like that they made up things as they went along, rules that they applied one way, but they didn't apply another. But again, it's very simple. If Democrats want to change that, Democrats have to figure out, even if it seems more difficult now, how to win those elections, how to influence that within the boundaries of our constitutional guidelines in Madisonian democracy. In this case with Donald Trump, what people who always attack me for saying, oh, you're too tough on Trump. I'm not. We may disagree with Trump on policies, but it's not about abortion. It's not about guns. Yeah, he made me really angry about the debt and made me really angry about the deficit, made me really angry about his inhumane treatment of immigrants on the border. But what we're talking about here is outside the constitutional guardrails of Madisonian democracy. It is so important that all Republicans, that all Trump supporters, that all conservatives, that all members, at least of our former tribe, understand. We'll debate abortion within those boundaries. But what Donald Trump did on January the 6th, what we heard yesterday, that is outside the constitutional framework of Madisonian democracy. And worse than that, it's against the law.
Correct. No, Joe, yesterday was powerful testimony, and I think that the conversation should focus on what Cassie Hutchinson observed firsthand and how powerful, how she observed Donald Trump being told of violence, and he had no qualms about it. He wanted to go forward. You look at the committee and how they are pursuing this in contrast to Democrats and abortion. And you look at Mitch McConnell, and you were talking about just how ruthless he was in pursuing his goal of the current Supreme Court. And this committee is playing for keeps, and I think that Liz Cheney's had a powerful influence on that. They are getting their supporters fired up. They're continuing to trickle out tantalizing details, and we need to hear firsthand. We need to hear firsthand from Pat Cipollone, and we need to hear firsthand from Mark Meadows. And I'm just curious, what is it going to take, and how protracted of a fight could it be before we get their important firsthand testimony of what happened with Donald Trump on January 6th?